everyone. Welcome to the Maitri podcast between friends, conversations with Maitri. I am your host Nandini Ray, and today we are going to discuss a very interesting topic, and that is couple counseling. I want to start today's episode by recognizing that May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and every year during this month, organizations and individuals across the country come together to raise awareness about the importance of mental health and emotional well being. It is important for all of us to learn, understand, and educate ourselves about mental health conditions so that we do not make assumptions, unintentionally hurt those who may already be struggling, and instead help reduce the stigma around mental health. Many times we see in South Asian communities, in our communities, that the word like counseling, therapy, they have stigma and we don't want to talk about it. But it is important. At the same time, I would like to focus on the importance of discussing this mental health wellness issue. So at Maitri, we believe mental health is deeply connected to the health of our relationships. And that is why, in honor of Mental Health Awareness Month, we will learn about couple counseling and the importance of nurturing couples' mental and emotional well-being. And to discuss this topic, we have invited Simi Markar. Simi Markar is a licensed marriage and family therapist and the founder of Mindset Counseling Group. She has been in practice for the last 20 years. Simi's work has been focused on supporting the South Asian community on issues related to marriage, parenting, divorce, and co-parenting. So join us for an important conversation on relationship wellness and what couples can do in building stronger, healthier relationship. So Simi, welcome to our show.
I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
So let's start with the basics because I think this is something many people are curious about but may not fully understand. What exactly is couple counseling and how can someone know when it might be the right time to seek it?
This is actually a great question. So we are a practice here in the Bay Area and we work a lot with the South Asian and Indian Pakistani community. And so we really want people to understand what couples counseling is and how to come in for support earlier in the process before conflict can kind of get really too big or too much to manage. So oftentimes I'm explaining to people looking for services that you really do not have to have a diagnosis, any kind of mental health diagnosis, to come in for support, right? We live in the Bay Area. This is a very intense place to live. It's a very intense place to raise a family. And so there's a lot of pressures on us. So I often am telling people to, as couples, come in for some support if we could use some help with parenting guidance, if we could use some help with strengthening the relationship in the home between the couple, because that is the foundation of our families and our households. So I tell couples, I say, it's really nice to sit down with a third party, a neutral third party who can understand the background and the culture, but can also help with improving communication and trying to reduce conflict.
Thank you for breaking that down.
Yeah, so oftentimes it can be things related to, often it's extended family dynamics, it's in-laws, it's parenting. We've all been parented a little bit differently, so we come into raising families with a little bit different parenting styles. So sometimes we have to come up with a new style to kind of raise our families. There's conflict there. So it's good to find a counselor to support with some of these.
And you know what, whatever you just say, that I think one of the challenges many people face is recognizing when something isn't quite right in their relationship, because if they need to recognize that something is not right, we need some counseling. So from a therapist lens, from your lens, what are some early warning signs of a toxic and unhealthy partner relationship?
Good question. So early signs, you're starting to have a harder time expressing yourself. You want to share something with your partner, you're starting to second guess, is this a good time to bring it up? Is he or she going to get upset? Is he or she willing to listen to me? So there's some breakdowns in the communication when we start to have more hesitancy and more, it could even be fear, or just we're just not comfortable with communication between the couple. That's an early warning sign. And if that's something that to try to address at home and to say, hey, we need to make more time to sit down and talk and to share and connect. So another early warning sign is you'll notice if there are increases in conflict. We're having more fights than usual. We keep maybe fighting over the same thing over and over, like repetitive topics, and we're not making any progress. I often tell people, instead of getting extended family involved, maybe it might be a good idea to reach out to a counselor. And there's so many South Asian counselors actually in the Bay Area, really good ones. So those are some early warning signs. Some people also start to have their own mental health issues, like they're starting to feel more depressed, more withdrawn, more anxious at home. There's some disconnect between the couple. They're not connecting as much. Maybe there's not as much quality time, not as much affection. There's some distance created between the couple. And I say, hey, let's get some support with that sooner rather than later, because that distance can grow over time. And we want to kind of keep the relationship strong. So if we can kind of find a counselor to help, that would be a good idea.
I think what makes this especially challenging is that not all unhealthy relationship or unhealthy patterns are immediately recognized as abuse. Sometimes they can be mistaken for normal relationship conflict. Like many of our survivors, people we help, survivors and victims, they say that our relationship was not bad in the beginning, or we have also some good days while we were together. So it's sometimes they don't even know or understand how to recognize that unhealthy patterns. And so, how can someone tell the difference between normal couple conflict and emotional and verbal abuse? But you are a South Asian, you know that in our culture, many people, they don't even understand that verbal abuse is kind of domestic violence. So, how can they identify it?
Yeah, oftentimes abusive behavior also increases over time. It starts off, as minor and maybe something that you don't realize is a problem. And it becomes, what the frequency also matters. Like it starts to become more frequent, like name calling, belittling, you're not worth anything, you would be nothing without me, you don't know anything, you're not smart. And this can go both ways. We've had men also be abused. It's like women can also be abusers. So I just want to make that it can be men to women and it can be women to men. It can be
yes.
It can be both ways, and please be aware of that. And it just becomes excessive. It becomes, if we're talking about we're talking verbal abuse. It's just feeling, the person is feeling, dominated. They're feeling disrespected. They're feeling like they cannot, their ideas and thoughts are not valued. They're being undermined, dismissed. So it becomes abusive when it becomes the frequency and also severity. It can become very severe. This can be very damaging to someone's self-esteem and sense of self. And it's also very unhealthy for children to be witnessing this dynamic in the home. They start to think that this is normal, or they also start to have a fear response to coming home. They're like, the home is not perceived as a safe place. Parents are in conflict a lot, or they're insulting each other. They're not nice to each other. And that is creating a lot of stress. We're seeing in the practice, that's creating stress in the children.
Yeah, that's a wonderful point you made, that many times people don't even understand that children are noticing. They think that they are watching TV or cartoons, or they're not noticing, but they notice everything, right? So that's why we say that domestic violence is a learned behavior. When they see that closely that someone is abusing or harming someone, they probably think that this is the only way to get things done. So, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, oftentimes abusive behavior also increases over time. It starts off, as I mentioned, One more point on that, Nandini, is that we've had some families also share with us that they pull the children into the conflict. They'll say, child is home from school in the afternoon, and they're saying there's an argument between the parents, and one of the parents will pull in the child, like a 12-year-old, and say, I'm right? You need to tell mom that I'm right, and like she always does this or he always does that. And the children are just put in this very difficult position. When we see them in counseling in the practice, they are just like, I don't want to be involved in this at all. This is very upsetting to me. I don't know how to get out of this. So that's also an impact on the kids. It's like seeing conflict, but also being pulled into conflict. And so I really want parents to be mindful to do not involve the children.
Yeah, this is so wrong that, in a way, parents are damaging their children's behavior, future, everything. Thanks for sharing that. And, in many communities, especially in our communities, South Asian communities, we have seen that relationships are not just between two individuals, right? They are deeply influenced by family interference, cultural values, and traditional gender roles expectations. So these are the factors that can impact our relationship, especially couple relationships. So in your practice, how did you see these factors influence couple relationships, and how can couples handle these expectations without damaging their relationships? So if you can share something.
Yeah, this is a great question. What I've been happy to see, and even in my own marriage, I myself am married to an Indian man, 19 years, is that these gender roles are changing. They're evolving, especially for families and couples that are growing up in the States. Like, things are changing here as we're kind of getting a little bit more progressive. And so these gender roles do exist, right? There's expectations of our culture that women will do this, men will do this. But as we're, some of these next generations are coming up, they're starting to have more variance in this. And there's also more discussion before marriage, like in the dating or in the getting to know you phase before marriage. People are now very clearly discussing expectations of like income and working and having children and child rearing and, managing a household. So that's a big positive we're seeing. It's like there's more communication pre-marriage so that we can understand some expectations. And also just communication into the marriage, and that the gender roles are not remaining so rigid where, previous generations, maybe a father would not have changed diapers. That is changing. That has already changed. And for most families. And so just to give you an example of like things are kind of progressing and changing. And to keep in mind, the in-laws will still have expectations, guys. And so what I do with that is I go back to the couple and say, hey, you guys hear what the in-laws have to say. And the couple come back together at a quiet moment and discuss. I'm like, hey, is this how we want to do this? Is this going to work for us? I don't feel comfortable with what your mom asked me. Can we talk about how to manage this together? I want the couple to see that they're on the same team. They are a team, and they are going to manage all of these dynamics. And sometimes the counseling will help kind of firm up some of that mentality and that approach to things of like, hey, you guys are a team, and we can handle these. We can handle these situations. It's just sometimes they're very delicate, and sometimes they need some communication and some, we need to work through it. Yeah. So.
You know what? It's good that you are seeing that the situation is changing, and couples are talking about it even before they get married. That's a good sign. I'm happy about it, that at least future couples will be happier, I hope. But in our generation, or even younger than me, I have seen, like recently, I did a podcast on the topic of in-laws abuse and interference, and there one therapist, she came on our show, and she shared that a couple of cases she is handling where a couple are suffering because of in-laws interference and in-laws kind of expectations, and they don't know what to do about it, and they are kind of they are sharing that we are okay, we are fine, but the moment our in-laws are visiting us from different countries, they are bringing expectations with them, or even some in-laws are here in this country, and they are holding that very old fashioned
Traditional.
expectations, traditional harmful traditional expectations. And couples, they are sometimes they don't know what to do, they are in big trouble, and they are kind of not sharing sometimes their grudges, their sorrow and their frustration with each other, and they are suffering and at the end it is kind of bursting into something big problem. So I'm very curious to know that how do they manage this kind of pressure without damaging their own relationship.
So I have them come into counseling and I say, hey guys, I need to hear from you. What is the expectation from the in-laws? Let's discuss what is it? A certain amount of like meeting, expectation of meeting this time together, or meals, or, financial. I'm not sure what the ask is. And then I look at the couple and I say, okay, now you guys have to sit with maybe me or yourselves and see what is the negotiation of what is going to seem reasonable for us. Like, it's basically, we have to kind of have a meeting of the minds to be like, as a team, how do we want to approach this? Because sometimes the asks of the in-laws can seem unreasonable, or unmanageable for the couple, or the person whose parents it is, they really want to please the parents, but it just seems the ask seems too big, so it has to be negotiated. Where, let me say an example, it's like, oh, we should have dinner together every single night, and the couple might be like, could we do this 2 nights a week? It's like, how can we have we can still try to meet some of the ask of the in-laws, because we do want to be respectful and manage those relationships, but it's not going to always be 100% of the ask. And this has to be worked through. It's delicate, right? So this is where the counselor can help and say, hey, how do I help you guys negotiate this? And it's a little bit uncomfortable sometimes, also just naming that, like, we don't want to displease or upset our parent, but we also have to manage having our own, marriages and then subsequent families. We have all these responsibilities to manage.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing, the key factor is conversation, like talking to each other. If couples they think that they are a team and they can talk to each other, then they can decide whether to go to a counselor or to talk to each other to sort things out, or whatever it is, in a respectful manner. That should be the case. That many times we see that couples, they don't recognize that they are in a toxic relationship or bad relationship until it's too late. So when they start when the resentment starts in relationship, they should be aware of that, and that's only they can realize, and they can talk about it. And as you said, that if they think that going to a counselor can help them to sort things out, to manage their tension, then it's probably good.
It's a good outlet for people to consider as a support system. It's like, sometimes we don't go to our friends. It's like, we need to talk this out, and I need a safe space to talk this out. So going to a counselor is a good space for that. Stays confidential. You can express yourself, and you're going to get some feedback and guidance that can be helpful, right? Like, it's like someone wants to help you, like, wants you to be successful, wants you to have a healthy marriage. So, and they're trained. That too.
Yeah.
So
that's a good part. Like, they're trained. They have tools to help.
They're not biased. They don't take side. They're not here to take anyone's side. They're like, hey, the side that I'm on is on the healthy marriage. I want you guys to have a strong, healthy marriage. I'm not here to take sides.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So sometimes what happens that if couples are in a not so good relationship, and they want to make their relationship healthy, then they will think about it. They will go to a counselor, or they will talk to each other to find solution. But the problem is that the cases we see is already abusive relationship, violent relationship. So in that kind of relationship, how can a victim ask their partner to go for counseling? It will be dangerous maybe, and even if they ask, I don't think the abusive partner will say yes. So is there any safe way to do that, or what's the solution?
There's not exactly a safe way to do that once there's violence in the marriage, because sometimes coming to a counselor can make things worse, because the research shows that, you know, a couple can come in and talk about things and the wife feels like she can express herself, but after the session there could be a bad fallout or result, because the abuser, if it's the husband, the abuser could be like, why did you say that, why did you, you know, it's like it's too unsafe to disclose certain things in the room. So I often tell women, or, you know, victims of abuse, I'm like, please try to seek services for yourself so you get some support. Like, I don't know if couples work is the right step at that time, because it might be dangerous, but get some support. Like Maitri is great. You know, there's organizations out here that are great. There's individual providers, many South Asian therapists here in the Bay Area that are, I am domestic violence trained. Like, you know, we are trained, we have this background, we can understand, and we can understand the risks that are involved.
Yeah. So best thing is when any resentment start building in a relationship, start early. So don't wait your relationship is toxic or abusive or very violent. So in that case, probably it's too late to go to a counselor or to do something. So if it is that dangerous situation, it's best to call an agency who can work with safety planning and danger assessment, like Maitri, or in Santa Clara County we have 5 other domestic violence advocacy agencies. And in every county there are many other free confidential agencies. Best to talk to them. But at the beginning of a relationship, when something is not right, or some resentment and some red flags are visible, then it's better to take care of that wound before it gets malignant and in a very bad situation.
I want to share with you, this week I had, and this has been happening more often in the practice, which I appreciate, is I had an Indian man reach out and we had a really good conversation about, he's married and has a child and wants some support, with his family. And but what he said to me is, he's like, hey, I was raised in India and my dad was very dominant, very, very tough to live with. And he's like, Simi, I consciously want to do it differently. I do not want to follow this pattern. I do not want to raise my family like that. So I'm so happy to see, and I do this in the practice too, where I'm like, let's look at where you came from as far as what was modeled to you as a couple, and let's see what we want to bring forward. What were the strengths that we want to continue? And very mindfully and intentionally leave behind some of the maladaptive, not so great behaviors that were either abusive, harmful, not great. Let's leave some of those behind. And so that's also where the counseling is so great, because we can kind of put a lens up to this. We can put a mirror up to this and say, hey, you now have a choice. You are now getting married and starting a family of your own. And you have a choice on how you want to do this. Just because this is what was modeled for you, the previous generation, or, other family members, that does not necessarily mean that this is the only way to do it, right? Like, so I think I'm actually seeing people breaking these patterns, which is so wonderful.
Great.
People want to progress. Yeah.
Great to hear that. And I'm hoping that one day we will see a culture of healthy relationship around us, and we will not see any calls coming to Maitri helplines, like people are supporting each other, having healthy relationship. I really hope that day will come.
I also, Nandini, I want them to see that it is possible. It is possible to have healthy marriages, healthy relationships, good communication, good affection, good intimacy, all of the good parenting. This is all possible. So again, the counselor, I really we like to keep holding the hope for families. Like, we can do this, guys. This is possible. It does exist. We can do this.
Yeah. So what does healthy communication look like?
Well, the main thing that I'm finding in my practice is I have to direct people to make time. What's happened to so many of our calendars is everyone has jammed their calendar with so many activities and, lots of to-dos, that when it comes time to interact with our loved ones at home, everyone's exhausted, worn out, and just, we just come home to crash, like everyone's tired. And I say, hey, guys, I need you to save some energy and some time that you need to interact and feed and nurture these relationships at home. So when you're asking me about healthy communication, I'm trying to coach my families to say, I need us to make time. So what does that look like? Are we having a meal together at dinner? Are we taking a walk? Or do we sit in the backyard and drink coffee and have tea? Do we have game night? Like every family, I need them to identify to me what is meaningful to them as far as like quality time. So quality time, then we can have that time for communication. So a big part of my work is to kind of identify for families where are the opportunities for connection. I need daily connection moments. I need these. And positive connection. I don't want lecturing. I don't want criticism. I don't want like, oh, your room is messy and you're getting a C in physics. And nay, I want like healthy, like I want to enjoy your company. Let's be playful. Let's make jokes. Let's cook together. Something enjoyable.
Yeah, that's a good point, to have a lasting and healthy relationship, to have meaningful communication, meaningful connection that sometimes we forget to have with our partners, with our children, because as you said, we are so busy and we don't want to lose anything in our lives, but in that process we are losing the most important thing in our lives. So you are so right. I will also think from now very positively that how can I make positive connection, meaningful connection with my family members.
The other thing that I'm hearing kids give me feedback about family life is they're like, hey, I'm 12, 13 years old and I go and I want to hang out with mom and she has her phone in front of her. And I said, oh, okay. So when you go up to mom, though, does mom kind of put her phone down and, make time? And she's like, no, she keeps texting. She's posting. I don't know what she's doing. She's on her phone. And I'm telling these parents, I say, listen, this is a big missed opportunity. The kids coming up to us and wanting to engage and wanting our time and wanting our attention is pretty important and needs to be prioritized. Put the phone down. Put it away. I sometimes tell parents, put it in the other room for a bit. I come home from work oftentimes in the evening and I leave my phone intentionally in my bag. So I don't even look at it. I'm like, I have two boys who are 15 and 18 and I'm just home with my boys and my husband. And you guys have my attention, right? It's like, put your phone away. And so I feel like this is important too, to create space for connection.
That's a great tip. Thank you.
Keep your phone away.
Yeah. So before we wrap up, I know that we can continue this conversation for another 2-3 episodes because this is such a great topic, an important topic for all of us. But since time is a factor, so before we wrap up, I would love to turn our focus toward, again, couple counseling, especially young people, like who may be at the beginning of their relationships or going to. Like I have two boys, one is 21, one is 18. So I am also thinking, praying that they should have healthy partner relationships in their lives. So what is your advice? If you are asked to give one piece of advice to young folks before choosing a life partner, what should they do? What should they, think, or any advice?
I think first for our own youngsters and the individuals, they themselves have to have some maturity and readiness to be in a relationship. Right? To be serious about a relationship. Like people are dating, but to be serious about a partner, you yourself have to do the work of like, I'm serious. I have the perspective of treating someone with respect, building something with someone, having a long-term vision with someone. It's very different from dating. It's like, I want to make a commitment to somebody. It's and also I think with people who are dating today, we have to allow for differences. Like there's all kinds of people out here, and allow for differences. There's, we're not going to all be the same. I've had some couples also who are willing to do some premarital counseling. Like we have a few sessions together before we get engaged. Or actually, I had some couples last year, they were engaged and wanted to come in and do some work and just kind of talk about family planning and religion and finances. And it was great because it's like, it's so nice to see the alignment that we can see. And also where, if there's some parts where we're off, and how we want to navigate, how we want to handle those things. But yeah, I think for young people who are dating and getting ready for relationships, be intentional, be mature, be ready to make a commitment, be honest about if you're ready or not. Because some people are getting pressured into like relationships and maybe they're not ready yet. So that's also a factor.
Yeah, that's a great point. Many people, they are pressured by their peers. Everybody has, like friend circle, we all have partners. Why don't you have one? And sometimes they, in a hurry, they select someone who is not right for them. So that is a great point, that do not feel pressured by your friends or family. Whenever you are ready, do that. That's a great point, Simi.
So I think young people, go out and meet people. I think sometimes we're getting too isolated. We're not socializing enough or putting ourselves in new situations. Go out and, which is hard these days to find these community events and find these opportunities, but try to follow your interests and go out and meet people. I think that's also really healthy for people who are trying to navigate finding a partner. You have to go meet people and see what you like, what you don't like. Yeah, don't be isolated and just be on the apps, because that's not the only way to do this.
So conversation is again communication.
Yeah, again, conversation, not any face-to-face interactions, meeting people organically is really nice.
Yeah. Actually, another thing I noticed, that's in, maybe I'm wrong, I'm not a counselor, but in my work around me, I've noticed that some young folks, they cannot take rejection very well. Sometimes we see news when they're breaking up. That is the most dangerous situation in couples' life. Either they're getting killed by their abusive partner or something. So rejection, also handling rejection, I don't know how to prep them, because rejection can happen, right?
Rejection is a part of dating, is a part of getting to maybe find a potential partner. Everyone that you meet is not going to be a match. And even if you date someone for a little bit or get to know someone over time, it may not work out. And it may be, something on your side, something on the other person's partner side. I think here it's also important that people understand that this is a risk. You can get your heart broken if you're going to be in a relationship. It's part of a risk. It's part of the risk of being in a relationship and trying these things. That's why you have to have the maturity to, try these things and understand that understand from the beginning that this may not work out. Just be a little mindful. The other thing I tell people is please don't have your partner as your only source of connection. People get so, tunnel vision into one person. And then they lose track of their other support network, friendships, sibling relationships, other things, coworkers. It's please have keep your social network intact, because putting all of this onto one person, the emotional emphasis on one person, is not always the best idea. It's not the best idea. Because if it doesn't go well, or if it falls apart, you're very vulnerable.
Yeah. So before you start relationship, you should have that kind of maturity that breakup can happen, or we cannot, get along, and then what? So that kind of maturity, conversation, communication, healthy communication, respectful communication, everything is important. And relationship, it's a partner relationship, it's like intimate relationship, and also in any relationship, whether it's with our partners or our friends and siblings or children. This is very important, to take every relationship seriously and do whatever that relationship requires to make it healthy and respectful. Any last comment?
I just want people to know that healthy relationships are possible. Communication, appreciation, affection, all these things. It takes work, guys. Like any relationship, like Nandini was just saying, it could be your sibling, it could be your best friend, it could be your partner. All of this takes work. It's like if these people are important to you, please put the effort. Your children, make time for these relationships, and please show up with patience and care. And that was what I would really encourage people. And know that there's counseling out here. Really good counselors in the Bay Area. We have a really good network of South Asian therapists. So please reach out, Google us if you need support. We're out here.
Thank you so much, Simi, for joining us in today's conversation. And I personally learned a lot, and I'm sure our listeners also got a lot of information. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Listeners, every relationship journey is unique, and healthy relationship require, like Simi said, open communication, empathy, care, understanding, respect, and time. She said over and over, give time to your relationship, give time to the people who matter to you. And also sometimes, as Simi said, that it may need professional support to navigate challenges in relationship. We hope this discussion helps you reflect, recognize, and respond to your own experiences with greater clarity and compassion. Until next time, this is your host, Nandini, and you have been listening to the Maitri Bay Area podcast Between Friends, Conversations with Maitri. Please find all our episodes on Maitri Bay Area's website and YouTube channel, and also other Maitri social media channels like Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. Please follow, like, and share our page. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for listening to the Maitri podcast Between Friends.
This show is for informational purposes only and is not to be construed as legal advice. Always consult an attorney for legal advice. Views expressed by guests of the radio show are individual opinions and not endorsed by Maitri.
Maitri is a free, confidential, non-profit organization based in the San Francisco Bay Area that helps families and individuals facing domestic violence. Don't suffer in silence. Call Maitri Helpline 1-888-8 MAITRI. Visit our website maitri.org.